Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And you have stumbled upon the podcast where we take one character, construct, or team and talk about it over an hour, but we're not going to do that any time during this hour because this is a very special episode of Geek History Lesson. I don't care what numbering system you look at or what you think you know, but this is the 200th episode of Geek History Lesson.
Yay!
Ashley, let me ask you this. When we started this podcast about 4 years ago, did you think we would ever see episode 200?
I think I did because I couldn't really imagine a reality where we stopped, and I still can't imagine that.
So you think we're going to get to 2,000 real easy?
I don't know. But when people ask me, like, how long is it going to go? I'm like, I don't know, forever, as far as I'm concerned. How about you?
I don't know. I thought it was about a 50-50 shot because I had done previous podcasts before Geek History Lesson, and one of them went I think we went to 50 episodes of the previous one. But 200 is a pretty significant number. And yeah, I would say the same thing to you. Like, I don't foresee Geek History Lesson ending until either we come up against a wall of, oh, wow, we've covered everything.
Yeah.
Or we just simply can't afford to do it. So.
Right, which is a real possibility, but we've done okay so far.
We've done all right.
Shout out to all the patrons who help us keep this going.
Yes, and thank you to all of them and all our sponsors that we have on the show and everything like that. Well, we debated for a very long time about what the 200th episode should be. And then we headed to this really awesome event in Kansas City, Missouri called Planet Comic-Con.
Yes.
And Planet Comic-Con kind of decided for us because we ran out of time.
Very responsible.
Yes. We had talked about possibly doing this as... I think we debated about X-Force was sort of a talking point.
Yeah,
Cable was a talking point.
We talked about a couple of the Silver Age editions.
Yeah, maybe we should do a Superman Silver Age 200th episode. But nothing really seemed to gel. And then when Planet Comic-Con asked us to do a live episode at their Amazing Con in Kansas City, Missouri, it just seemed perfect to make it the 200th episode. So it is basically us with a panel talking about the best supporting characters, not only in comic books, but in all mediums. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of inside info. Originally, David Dastmalchian from Ant-Man and The Flash was supposed to be on this panel, hence the reason why the topic was best supporting characters in comic books, because he's a supporting character in a comic book movie. And
he is in a bunch of them.
Yeah, and we thought that this would be a fun topic to talk about him. Well, he didn't show to our panel.
He's a busy man.
He's a busy actor, and we feel no ill will towards him.
No.
But you'll hear their names introduced before the podcast, before the panel, but I want to tell you just again who they are. The panel, of course, involves me, involves this person you've never heard of called Ashley Robinson.
Yep.
It involves Superman co-writer and artist Patrick Gleason, and the founder and host of the Major Spoilers podcast, Steven Schleicher.
Who we love more than anything.
Yes, who is sort of, I would call him our pod father.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Because if not for Major Spoilers, I don't think we would have ever started this podcast. So mad shout out to the Major Spoilers podcast as well, and we love that we're part of their network as well. So the panel starts very sillily. You'll hear it as soon as you'll hear an audio version of the panel, but this was recorded live at Planet Comic-Con, so we do apologize for any audio issues. This will sound quite different from any of our normal episodes. So please enjoy the 200th episode of Geek History Lesson.
All right. Now I'd like to introduce my moderator, Jason Inman.
Hello, Planet Comic-Con. Stretch your neck because I'm behind you. Oh, yes, I'm running up right behind you right now. Yes, it's a different panel. You don't know what to expect. I just jumped on the stage. Welcome. Thank you so much on a Sunday for coming to the Geek History Lesson podcast panel here at Planet Comic-Con. If you don't know, we are the podcast where we break down one character, object, or construct in less than an hour, and we're not doing any of that today. We're just going to have a big, long discussion. But enough of me. Let's get right to our esteemed panel. You know her as the co-host of Geek History Lesson, Ashley Victoria Robinson. Right up behind her is the co-writer and artist of Superman, Patrick Gleason.
Woo!
And right after him is the grand poobah and host of the Major Spoilers podcast, Steven Schleicher.
Woo!
Different intro music. I like that.
Well, unfortunately, I requested the intro to the 1996 championship Chicago Bulls. They said no. Unfortunately.
Why did you bring a pen?
Honestly, it's like Linus's blanket. It's kind of a comforting thing.
Security
marker. I
marker?
don't have a pen. Someone says, "Hey, could you draw something?" And so I just.
So you're legally required to have a
Yeah,
pen now? Is that what it is? I feel weird sitting in front of you guys. I'm going to move the chair. And of course, we're recording this for an audio podcast later, so nobody can see this. So enjoy.
Jason very attractively moved his chair back.
There you go.
For the listening audience.
Okay,
Theater
so
of the mind.
we're here to talk about the best supporting characters in comic books and the best supporting characters in all of media, because supporting characters play a very important role in the stories that you read. They make stories feel real. They make lead characters feel real, and they make worlds feel real. So, and I think they're often overlooked, and I thought that this would be a very fun discussion to have, because, Geek History Lesson podcast, we're the podcast where you learn, and I think we could learn about some supporting characters that maybe people don't know about, maybe people aren't interested in, stuff like that. Since we have the current writer of Superman on our panel, I think we got to start with, yes, Ashley Robinson just announced as the writer of Superman now.
I would die.
I thought we could talk with the Superman family, and this is for anybody on the panel right here. Who would you consider to be the best supporting character in Superman's world?
Best or favorite? They're different answers.
Let's go favorite to you or best to you,
Okay.
personal to you.
I'm going to say, I think objectively, you have to go Lois Lane.
Yep.
She's maybe the greatest female character in the DC universe. Sorry, Diana.
There's no maybe.
You can listen to our 50th anniversary episode where we talked about that. But my favorite character right now is Jonathan Kent. I didn't know that Superman's son was the character that I needed to really see. He knows. To make that world flesh out and to shine a light on a character who's been around for so long. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Well, thank Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks who brought that.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Patrick, would you agree with that? Is it Lois Lane?
Yeah, no, I would say Lois Lane first and foremost is the the yin to Clark's yang, obviously, and there's the weird love triangle thing that is always present with them. And actually, I was talking last night with Brian Azzarello, and he was pointing this out. That it's always this. It's a love triangle, with two people. Before she knew who Superman's true identity was. But now that we're dealing with the family situation, our challenge has been how do you bring in this unit that all kind of play off each other and work together, and I think then that brings us to John, and that makes it all work. It's this cool family that is almost impossibly good, but it's
almost too wholesome.
They're too wholesome, but that's kind of the point. Whereas on Batman and Robin, with Damian and Bruce, they were always very at each other's butting heads and things like that. But now we've got Andy and Opie basically, and or Little House on the Prairie type people here. You know what I mean? And so it plays along with the fantasy that Superman is when you read a comic. He's too good. He's too pure to almost exist in this world, which I think actually plays off of what's so appealing about him.
Did you ever make the pitch to DC to rename Superman's House of the Prairie?
Well, that would be Hamilton, basically. This was I actually did this when I first came on to write.
Superman and his family live in this city called Hamilton.
Yes. It was a farmhouse in Hamilton, and when I came on, we wanted to give John a Smallville. Superman was from Smallville. We wanted John, as we knew he was going to become Superboy, to have a hometown, and without Ma and Pa Kent around, we wanted to see Clark as Pa Kent, basically. And behind closed doors, when I would talk to Pete, who I'm writing Superman with, I would say like we got to think, Little House on the Prairie. It's because in my mind I'm thinking what that means to me is here's a family that is together, and there isn't drama between them. All the drama is around them, threatening to pull them apart. They're trying to hold it together, and those are the kind of stories I want to see. And he said, don't ever say that publicly because that would ruin Superman. But so sorry, I already
Good thing you're leaving the book.
Right.
Did they sleep on dirt floors at any point?
They did. But it's actually funny. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but the house, because they had me design the house that they live in.
Yeah.
And it's actually I basically drew it off of my great grandparents' farmhouse, which
Really?
is
Very cool.
which is here in Missouri. So actually, I'm
wow.
hoping I'm going to go drive by. We don't own it anymore, so I might just show up and knock on the new
Oh, and
owner's
be like,
door.
can I look at your house, stranger?
Just come by with an issue or just hold it up.
Like, look at the hat. I do this.
So, if I go missing, just go find the
Yep. Now we know where that farmhouse
farmer
is.
with the shotgun.
Yep. Just hold up the comic and look at all the farmhouses in Missouri. We get it. Steven, who do you think is a very important? We've heard 2 for Lois. Would you agree that Lois is number 1?
I think Lois is really great. I mean, that's this love interest. But if we're looking at something that people can identify with, the sidekick was created because we have to get these young kids into reading this and identifying. So if we're looking at Superman, really that just leaves Jimmy Olsen, right? Here's this guy
so
that's
sweet.
always there, wants to be Superman's pal. I mean, he is. I mean, he goes around, presses the watch nonstop. But when we look at Jimmy Olsen as he's evolved, he's created his own character. He's evolved from just this cub photographer, cub reporter. He started going to do investigative reporting. He's become a giant turtle. He's become a werewolf. He's become a leech.
Turtle Jimmy Olsen is my favorite Jimmy Olsen.
He just appeared in the last Superhero Girls trade, if anyone wants to check that out.
He's
all you Turtle
a
Boy
member
fans
of the
out
Legion
there.
of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah?
So if you had to weigh quote unquote kid sidekicks, you got Pete Ross on one side, Jimmy Olsen on the other.
Does anybody
And I think
count
we gotta.
Pete Ross? Come on.
Well,
Come on.
certainly Pete Ross does. I mean, Pete Ross knew Superman's identity before Lois or Jimmy. So kind of keep that in mind.
Oh, all right. All right.
Interesting point.
That is.
So I'm going with Jimmy.
All right, now let's flip over to Marvel. Of course, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have many supporting characters there. Like I would say Falcon is one of the best movie supporting characters of all time, I would consider. I think the way they create that relationship in that movie is very interesting. But in terms of the comics, Marvel comics become very interesting because they are a company that really doesn't focus on legacy. They don't like sidekicks. Now, a lot of that is Stan Lee back in the days being like, I don't think kids dress up as superheroes, yeah, or whatever, Excelsior, whatever he would say. But Robin made Batman sell more. When Robin was introduced into the Batman title, that comic book sold more issues.
That's a good party trick when the guy wearing the Batman shirt comes up and wants to tease you about liking Robin.
Yeah. But I think I want to open up company-wide for Marvel or the entire universe. And if you want to say a character from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is totally fine. Who do you think are some great supporting characters in the Marvel universe, especially a universe built around not having a lot of supporting characters?
Am I going first? I do think it's tough because there is that culture of like anti-legacy, except they just did an event that was all about how they have these cool legacy characters right now, and a lot of them are...
Because Stan Lee wasn't watching what they're doing.
Well, I don't think he owns a stake in Marvel, so... I am a big fan of Kate Bishop. I think that she is one of the longer-standing supporting characters.
Second Hawkeye.
Hawkeye girl is what they call her in the Matt Fraction run. Because they call him Hawkeye, because he's like casual and cool. But she is one of the only legacy characters who's been allowed to grow up and assume the mantle, which is something that even DC doesn't do a lot. I mean, Dick Grayson is the one of him and Wally, I guess, are the two standouts of like ascending to be your mentor and then arguably better than your mentor. And I think at every turn, Kate is so much better than Clint at what she does, and she hasn't murdered him yet. So I think there's a really good case for her and her quality as a human and as a hero.
Do you think that's something that should be considered when you're thinking about sidekick supporting characters? Is how much do they want to murder the elder hero?
No, it's like,
is there a percentage scale on this?
If the original hero is a screw up and you're better than them and you keep them alive, I think you deserve some bonus points. Plus, Clint tried to kiss her when she was like legally underage, and then because she got to be included in the Valentine's Day issue that they did. So I think like Kate Bishop deserves a lot more respect than she gets, and she deserves to have pants that cover all of her legs and don't have weird hip pockets in them. So I also didn't want to say an X-Men character, so I said Kate Bishop.
All right, Patrick, how about you?
Oh man, I mean, my Marvel knowledge is very limited. There was when I first got into.
That's why I included the movies.
Oh, okay. Well, no, but I want to
try.
try.
Watch the Marvel movie,
I
Patrick?
want to try because I did. I read X-Men and Spider-Man. In the '90s, that's what I got in. But actually, I think my first my first Marvel book was G.I. Joe, so I'm really like out there. Like I came in.
G.I. Joe is super obscure. You're right.
I came in the side door of comics. I didn't even know comics were a thing. I thought it was.
Fun fact: that's the after credit scene of Avengers: Infinity War. G.I. Joe shows up. You hear somebody go, "Yo, Joe!" and
Joe. But I've been.
Can you? I think I just wrote a better movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I like Miles Morales. I don't know if you want to call him a sidekick, but when you're talking about legacy,
sure, yeah.
I think he's the. I love Spider-Man. I love Peter Parker, and I think he's obviously proven to be just a fantastic new addition to that legacy, and so and maybe in a strange way, not very Marvel of Marvel, more DC like.
Well, it's interesting because now they've done the thing where they've combined those universes. Miles was sort of in this weird pocket universe where Peter Parker died, and now he's in the universe with there's grown-up Peter Parker. Peter Parker's like 32 now, and
he's also dating Gwen, who lives in a different universe.
Well, Miles is quitting dead, not Peter.
Yeah.
Okay. But Miles is like 18 or whatever.
So Peter's like 35. It'd be weird.
Yeah. So now that he's in the main universe with Peter, he is now, a supporting character of Peter, which is kind of weird because he was never built as a supporting character.
Right.
He was built as like the lead.
He like de-evolved into a supporting character.
They put it backwards.
Cool, man. It's not cool.
Steven, how about yourself?
Well, look, I'm kind of split because on one hand I've got Aunt May, right, who's making the wheat cakes for Peter, keeping him healthy. But on the other hand, J. Jonah Jameson is a much better supporting character for Spider-Man because without knowing it, well, depending on which version you're reading and what's been retconned or not, he's paying Spider-Man's salary to go out and take pictures, right?
Of himself.
Perry
White also does the same thing for Superman. Like, that's a big thing. Like, Superman's making so much money, scam money off of Perry White, like writing articles about himself. I got the exclusive from Superman. You did, Kent? Good job. Take that, Perry.
And that's the other thing, too, is that Jonah, by the fact that he's constantly trying to put down Spider-Man in the newspapers, is unintentionally giving him
free press
and free publicity. So for that reason, I think J. Jonah Jameson deserves to be on this list.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
What do we think about... All right, let's talk about this, because you just entered into my mind this idea of, do we consider, in comic books, are superpowered pets supporting characters? Like, is that part of this? Because let's go down. Because we have Crypto.
Oh yeah.
You created Titus for Batman and Robin.
Goliath.
There's Beppo the super.
Oh,
monkey.
does Goliath count?
There's what?
Does Goliath count?
Goliath the giant bat. There's Bat Cow. Even in the Marvel universe, there's Lockheed the dragon.
Yep.
There's
Lockjaw.
Are there Herbie the robot from Fantastic?
That's not a pet.
If you rub his tummy,
he's not a pet.
Yeah, Herbie purrs if Franklin pets him. That's a little known secret. That's canon. But do those count as supporting characters, or
I don't see why not. I mean, how many times has
category?
Crypto gone in and done something heroic to save Superman? Or even if you look at the Legion of Super Pets, where you've got a super horse, you've got the monkey, you've got the Streaky the cat. You've got so many different characters out there that do stuff.
And Pet Avengers, which we reviewed on the Major Spoilers podcast.
Forgot about the Pet Avengers.
You should forget about them. They're not great.
Okay. Who's on the Pet Avengers?
Lockjaw, Lockheed, and a bunch of characters who they made up for that run.
Like Cap Wolf.
No. It would have been better.
Spider Cow.
You got Thor.
Spider Ham.
Oh yeah, Throg is on it.
Yeah, Throg's on it. All right, interesting. So let's go back to DC. And let's go to one of the characters that should not have a lot of supporting characters, that seems to have more supporting characters than any other character that I can think of in any canon, and that is Batman.
No, you got to say it in the voice.
Batman.
Right.
All right. This orphan guy collects people.
Collects orphans.
He collects orphans like he collects cars. It is ridiculous. It's like every other week Batman's like I kind of get the impression that if you are a child walking through Gotham City, there is a 50-50 shot. Batman's going to walk down an alleyway and hand you a business card and be like, "Come on, kid, let's go."
Please, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah.
I think the Robins have that. They could break Batman. I mean, really, look, you've got a guy who dresses as a bat, runs around, does all this stuff. He could be crazy, right? And he's got a giant penny in his cave and a cow in his
T-Rex.
cave. Right. Which, to a certain degree, you're just like, oh, comics. But then you have, like, children. and then you just go, we need to be very. Maybe we should send someone to check on this guy.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I think that's supposed to be Alfred, though.
That you know what? That is true. Alfred does kind of balance that and give you that safe feeling. Like if something goes wrong, Alfred's going to fix it. Don't worry. Right.
One of the episodes of this podcast that I've always wanted to do is actually working out what did Batman do to Robin. Now get your minds out of the gutter. That's not what I'm talking about.
This is a deep cut. When Jason and I were creating this podcast, it came out of a discussion about what would it be like to train to be Robin.
What was the training that Batman actually put this 10-year-old kid through? Because I can remember reading this issue of Nightwing. It was like some Nightwing annuals when they were doing the Pulp Heroes line. And there's a line at where Dick Grayson, he's scuba diving and he puts on the thing and he can tell that the oxygen is poison. He's like, oh, I know it's, troxyloxyphosphate or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a real chemical. I'm a chemistry major. And he says this poison. He's like, yeah. And then the next caption box is, Bruce made me learn poisons and gases and be able to identify them. And I was like, what the hell did this adult do to this 12-year-old? Like, he's just like, smell that arsenic, taste that lace.
But we're also you're also looking at that through like a modern day lens. I mean, you wouldn't have to go back more than maybe 100 years, and you start to see younger people taking on more adult roles. These are people that are farming and going to war and having to deal with harsh reality. I think maybe now we're just a little more comfortable that we're able to kind of relax and say, just be a kid until you're 40, right? Like me, So it's cool, you don't have to worry about that stuff. But so I mean, in a weird way, Batman is kind of you can look at him as being really responsible with these kids by giving them these tools by giving them a job, exactly.
Plus, Batman has an incredible encyclopedia that just has all that information in there.
Oh, really?
So he just makes the kids read the encyclopedia.
No.
It's not an encyclopedia anymore. It's like a flash drive, probably.
No, he doesn't make the kids read it. Batman makes them memorize it. Batman's like, memorize that book. Like, here's all volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Start learning them. The kid starts. By the end of the year, he's almost to Z, and the Batman's like, here's the new version. Oh, no! Okay, so do we all agree as a panel, would Robin... And I'll leave it as
which version of Robin?
Well, let's
does Duke count?
Well, let's just say Robin as a concept, best Batman supporting character.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think it has to be Robin or Alfred.
Ooh, Alfred.
I'm leaning towards Alfred, to be honest.
All right, why go Alfred over Robin?
Because I don't think there's Batman without Alfred. I think he would have got off the deep end, died, crashed and burned, cried in a corner for the rest. I don't know. Alfred is there. He was always there from the beginning, pulling him back out and helping him. So he's you have to have Alfred.
Yeah. Ashley, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm contractually obligated to say Robin. As listeners of this podcast know, Robin's my favorite hero. I think it's an interesting debate about which Robin.
Okay, we can get into that.
But that might be too in the weeds.
Steven, how about you?
Yeah, it's got to be Robin. I mean, when you look at what comes after me, what comes after Batman, we look at our kids, right? And Batman right now does not have children of his own. So he has to look to the Robins as his what's coming next. And each Robin, depending on which one you like best, tends to give Batman hope for the future.
All right, now I'm going to put you battle royale between the two of you right now. Which Robin?
Well, Steven and I have the same favorite Robin.
We do, but I have an alternate, so
both wrong. Who do you say?
Come on.
I mean,
which is the best, or what?
Which is the best Robin?
Tim Drake is the best Robin, but Dick Grayson is the I think the most important character.
I've said this many times. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast before. Before I got the job on DC All Access, they brought me into a room and
Jim Lee was just there.
No, Jim Lee was not there. That was later. But they asked me the question, who's your favorite superhero? And I said Nightwing. And I went on a 20-minute diatribe about why I think Dick Grayson is the most important comic book character of all time, because he's the first comic book character we ever got to see grow up. Mm-hmm. We've lived with Dick Grayson. So we journey with him. So that's why to me, it will always be Dick Grayson is the best Robin.
It's also hard to pit these other characters against someone who was Robin for 50 years?
40 years?
I don't know how long before he got hairy thighs.
A long time.
The Nightwing
well, it took him 40 years to get the hairy thighs, so. But you guys both are Tim Drake. The third Robin.
I would, but I think there's a better Robin who's actually kind of either Dick Grayson. I think it's got to be Dick Grayson, because if you've ever read the Bat manga series, that was kind of a weird. How it came about is like, hey, we would like to do our own Japanese version of Batman, and DC was just like, okay, sure.
Kind of like the animated movie that's coming out.
Yeah, it's like for 2 years they just did whatever they want, and the Robin in the Bat manga series is off the wall. At one point, he thinks Batman is dead, and he's like, "I'm gonna avenge you, Batman!" And he's driving down the street, and he sees I think it's a Cannonball. I think is the villain that they're after. I'm gonna run you down with my car.
Batman has a villain called Cannonball
in the
manga.
Japan, in the manga.
Patrick, I'm gonna give you something because you've written Batman and Robin before. I'm gonna give you a free idea. Please take it. Please write the greatest Batman series of all time.
I knew I brought this pen.
Yep, write it down. Let's go. The story arc's called The Cannonball Run.
Oh,
wah, wah, Jason.
I need to think about that.
He's hauling Bat Cow in a semi across the country
oh man.
to pick up clown chowder for some reason.
Okay, so look, Dick Grayson. Going back to the original question, Dick. Moving
threw that idea
mercifully. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding. Dick Grayson is obviously the first choice for Robin, but I think for Damian, who I obviously had extensive time writing and working on Batman and Robin with, the thing with him that you bring in another Robin, we don't need him, right? But the thing that was so different about Damian initially is he was a challenge to Bruce in a new way, which is he's his biological son. But that not just that, but he's also a villain. Damian Wayne was a murdering villain that Bruce had to accept, and not just accept, but he eventually grew to love and was broken by his death and all these things. So you saw this new part, a lot like with Jonathan and Superman. You've exposed this new raw area to a really familiar character that you've seen, do a million things, amazing things, and then this one simple thing that we can all kind of relate to, which is, either being a child of a parent or having your own kid, really brings that extra dimension to him. I think too, the other added benefit of it, at least when I was writing on Robin, Son of Batman, which is that whole idea of redemption and like how could and forgiveness, which is a strange topic in comics, because it's always just like, oh, you stopped being bad, so now I accept you, and so what Damian allows you to explore is what does that look like, and bringing in the character like Maya Descartes, who was she took on the mantle of her father, Nobody, who Damian had actually killed. So she had to kind of come to forgive him, and it just creates a whole new kind of area of comics that I'm interested in, which is my favorite thing in superhero stories is redemption. I think that's just a cool thing that we've all screwed up somehow in different degrees. Hopefully, we didn't kill anyone, or become a ninja assassin or something like that.
Please raise your hand if you have.
No, I don't want to know if you know. I know. But,
so when can we look forward to you introducing an evil daughter for Wonder Woman?
Oh man, I've thought about it actually. I think that's not going to happen. Sorry.
Aw.
Is that when you have created some of these supporting characters for the Batman's universe and Superman's universe, and I want to pick your brain since we have you on this panel. Is that how you create some new supporting characters for these legends? Is you try to look for the emotion or like they represent a theme that you're going for?
Yeah, I mean it's I love doing big epic stories. I love seeing cool things. I'm a cartoonist, comic book, artist, so I want to draw interesting things. But if you don't have that thread of relatability somehow, or showing the character of through some sort of relationship, it kind of falls flat. That you can have the coolest Michael Bay explosions, but if you don't care about Optimus Prime, how did I get into this? Sorry. Because I don't care about Transformers, Michael Bay. I'm sorry, I hate those movies. Okay, I'm moving on. No.
You heard it here. Patrick Gleason hates Optimus Prime. Let's see that in comic.
No.
Tomorrow.
No. In Transformers the movie, when Prime died, I cried like a baby in the theater, and that was the point because you cared about him because he was a father figure to these people, to these robots. Okay, I'm just all over the place. I'm sorry. But going back, no, it really is just about having something that finding something that we can relate to. Which, with Jonathan, seeing Superman, one of the first things, when Pete and I were talking about it, one of the lines I said, we have to have which is Jonathan seeing his dad, doing superhero things in regular clothes, looking out the window, kind of, and not being scared of. There was a barn that was on fire, and Superman was saving the animals, and and Jonathan's looking out the window at his dad, and the caption just says, "My dad is Superman." And that was it, because I felt like that was something that, if you couldn't say that personally about your own dad, you would want to, and so you can kind of relate to that. So you're looking at Superman now. We've seen him through so many lenses over the years, but now here's a new way to look at it, which is we're looking at Superman through the eyes of a kid, which I think Jimmy Olsen was that forerunner. Jimmy Olsen was that. John basically just kind of replaced him, because we wanted to use Jimmy, but it was like we couldn't. It seemed repetitive. We couldn't really make it work the same way. So
who's the best Transformers supporting character?
Well, Spike, obviously.
The 18-inch rubber wheels.
Wheelie. I take it back. Wheelies.
Nice.
All right, let's move into a universe that has so many characters that people forget whether they're supporting or main, or people even forget that a lot of these characters exist. The X-Men universe. Yeah. The X-Men universe, many times there have been mutants. Mutants are always hated and feared. They're a minority group that somehow has millions of members. But somehow there's
so do some actual minority groups too.
What's that? Yeah, as opposed to some minority groups that are actually less than 1 million. For some reason, we're supposed to hate and fear these people that have powers that look exactly like Spider-Man and Captain America, and it makes no sense, but people hate them anyways. Who do we think? And that's a difficult universe again, because some of the characters have become leads. Then they become supporting characters. Then they become leads again. Then they've been erased.
Wolverine was originally a Hulk supporting character.
He was a Hulk
villain.
Yeah, he was a Hulk villain that became a lead character. So, Steven,
Man,
do you have?
Go to me.
Yep, going right to you.
I'm
gonna change it up.
Worst topic is that. Who's the guy that provides all their weapons? The
Forge.
Forge, that's who it is.
Well, that's a good answer.
He really is. I mean, if you need
That's
something
a character
made,
I forgot about.
Forge is the guy that
He has an amazing Fu Manchu mustache.
He does.
And long ponytail. I think he always has a ponytail.
Yeah, you got to
Even after the 90s?
Yep.
And you have to do the
Shoulder pads.
headband.
Yeah, you gotta have
and
the headband.
shoulder
That's
pads.
right. Yeah.
And you have to be able to build crazy weapons. So
Yep.
I think Forge is probably the one to go for in the X-Men.
Yep. Ashley, I'm going to you next.
I'm just going to say Nightcrawler because he's my favorite. And there have been Nightcrawler books, but they've never really lasted for a long time.
And Nightcrawler has led Excalibur for a while.
But never the X-Men.
Oh, that's true.
So I think that still qualifies him as a supporting character. What I think is interesting about him is he's the epitomization of a self-hating whatever. No one hates themselves more than Kurt Wagner, which is so tragic because he's so interesting.
That's Catholic guilt.
Well, I guess. I'm not Catholic.
Blue guilt.
Him and Matt need to just hang out more and work through some of their issues. But I think it's interesting that he personifies everything that we love about these characters. Like, he's blue, he teleports, he makes a dumb sound. Like, that's what you want from your X-Men, and he hates it. And I think that's why maybe he'll never ascend to being a great leader. The way, like, even Kitty Pryde, who was created around the same time, has had more leadership
Kitty
capability.
Pryde, a character younger than him.
Yeah, younger than everyone until about 5 years ago. Because then she wanted to kiss Cyclops or Colossus, so they had to age her up. So, yeah.
Patrick, I'm going to throw you into a universe that you don't work for currently.
That's all right. I would say, I don't know. This is tough.
Optimus Prime?
Optimus Prime, does that work? No.
There was
I don't know.
the X-Men and the Transformers crossed over. So.
Right.
God, I forgot about that.
That's what will bring Patrick over to Marvel, writing that.
Who was was it like Moira McTaggart was like was
Weird girlfriend of Charles? Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, she was around and things happened, but I don't know if she was a great supporting character. I don't know if Jubilee counts.
I would say Jubilee
But
counts, yeah.
I never really saw. It never really quite scratched that itch, but it seemed like there was a lot of potential. Like with her and Wolverine, it was that same kind of thing. It's that here's the tough, unapproachable guy, but then there's the little this kid that he cares about.
He does have those weird relationships with young, age-inappropriate women.
Right.
Yeah. He really could have done. I mean, if they would have done a series like that really well, it could have been a new Lone Wolf and Cub type of
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I think for my pick for the X-Men universe, I have to go to a character that has sort of become a lead, but when he started, he was a supporting character, and he was sort of this mystery, and you didn't know who he was. Like, I have to go with Cable.
Knew you were going to say Cable.
Yeah, because Cable brings this interesting idea, and again, you don't know who Cable is the son of Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men. But when he was born, people stole him because he fulfilled some prophecy. Yeah, it got very complicated. Welcome to the X-Men. He got sent to the future, and then by the time he was able to come back to our time, he was a 50-year-old man. So the second time he ever met his dad, he was older than his father, and he had gray hair. And I think there's something really powerful to that relationship. Now, I think they have expanded Cable into ridiculous levels, and I don't think he's as cool of a character now as he was when he was first introduced. But there's something interesting about the next generation of the X-Men. Right. Basically, it expands that all the X-Men stories are about sadness and fear and, God, I wish we could be a normal human. And I think that takes that emotion and doubles it, because then it's this guy to be like, oh, I never got to know my dad. Right. And now I'm this grizzle hardened soldier, and my dad doesn't like me.
Now I'm Josh Brolin.
Now I'm Josh Brolin, which would actually make him happy and stuff like that. All right, I'd love to move into television. Now, this can be any television show, and I'm going to start it off, comedy, drama, anything like that, because I think one of the greatest supporting characters on television of all time is Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Hey, you have some fans.
Yeah. I think he's one of the best television characters in 20 years, because when he first showed up, he was this very archetypical, I'm the boss, I like bacon, eggs, things like that, Leslie. And he's not that interesting. And then over the course of the season, you find out that, or the mini seasons, I mean, that he's a real person, and he actually cares for everybody in his department, even though when he's first introduced, you feel like he's the last guy that would give a damn about anybody in that department, and he actually really cares about them more than he would know. Like, he has the very soft, he has the nougat center, as I would call it, of emotion. But I think Ron Swanson is one of the best supporting characters of all time, and I think it's the reason why he has sort of like transcended and sort of become this meme, and I think it's such brilliant writing. So I will let any of the panelists that want to go first.
I'll go because I have an idea. I'll let you guys think a little more. I am going to say Niles Crane from Frasier.
That is a great choice.
Is one of the greatest supporting characters. And if you've never watched Frasier and you have no interest in it, that's fine, because it's a lot of snobby white people. But you should Google the 7-minute opening where he catches the apartment on fire. It's just perfect. And it's because David Hyde Pierce is such a phenomenal actor, and who was honestly cast for his looks. But when Frasier no longer focuses around Niles' relationship with Daphne and him pining for her, after they get married, the show is not as good, because Niles is the emotional core of that show. And Martin, the father, may he rest in peace. Frasier is really just the comedic lens that you see them through. And when Niles is having feelings after he gets over being a creep in the first season, you empathize with him.
That's right. He is super creepy in the first season.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
because he sneaks into like Daphne's bedroom.
Over. Yeah. Yep. But he's where all of the emotion comes from. He's the best actor on the show. And I had a crush on him when I was a child. So David Hyde Pierce as Niles Crane.
It's interesting. We both pick characters from TV sitcoms. Patrick, are you going to continue the trend?
Okay. I've never thought of this question, but the first one that pops into my mind is Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He's great. He's awesome. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a great. I can't think of anyone else he's awesome. He's just so tired. He just doesn't care, and he will just break your nose and then just go have a beer and watch the game, and then that's it. And it just informs. It informs them. In Breaking Bad, it shows you're on this crazy roller coaster with Jesse Pinkman and Walter White, and they're trying to be criminals, and they're trying to do this thing, and he's done it. He's seen it, and it's a great contrast. And then in Better Call Saul. It's so funny because you see him and they hardly use him for like a whole season.
Yeah.
He's also not that different, which is interesting, because you look at Jimmy McGill, Saul. Right. I mean, he's night and day, but like Mike Ehrmantraut, played by Jonathan Banks, is almost the exact same character in both shows.
It's because even by that point, he's seen it and he's learned the lesson, like you're talking about. Right. We are never going to see him at the height of his criminal career, which I think would be when he was different.
Right. Sure. Well, they did a little flashback where they went, because he was a cop, right? And then I'm trying to remember.
His son died? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, they're giving him a backstory, which I get a little nervous when you get into stuff like that because sometimes that can spoil that character for you a little bit. But so far, I mean, the writing I think Better Call Saul is actually better written than Breaking Bad. I don't know.
I kind of agree with you on that fact.
It really is. It's such a slow burn. It doesn't try to be anything other than it is. The dialogue is just so tight. I mean, when I watched that, I was sitting there with my wife, and I'm just, after writing in comics and realizing, because when you look at my earlier stuff, it's just like I can't even read it. There's so much dialogue. It's basically you write a comic book or a screenplay, and I think the idea is, the closest thing I can attribute it to is like Twitter. Like, hey, you want to say something in 2 paragraphs? You have 140 characters or whatever it is now.
280.
Right, and they say so much. Like in that show, they can say so much and so little. It's amazing.
Steven, how about you?
Mine's a deep cut.
Okay.
Like really, really deep.
Actual cut?
Is it Rockford
no.
Files?
Is it a knife?
Oh man, if it was the Rockford Files, that's what I should have brought up. But
Is it the knife from Psycho?
No, it is not. But close. If you're going into space and an accident occurs, you're going to need as much help as you can. And when that space shuttle is coming in and you've got disasters everywhere, ants floating around, potato chips floating around, there's only one supporting character that you can count on, and that is an inanimate carbon rod. From Homer Simpson in Space.
Yep.
They throw a parade for it.
Threw a parade for him. Homer gets nothing but an inanimate carbon rod.
I want to quickly apologize to anybody that's listening to this podcast in the audio version. Steven, drop your mic right now because that is so brilliant.
I'll go.
There we go.
Which is the sound that the carbon rod
Would make if it was hitting me.
Saving our lives.
The inanimate carbon rod. Did you immediately come up with that, or how?
That was one I thought about for a long time.
Carbon rod. Okay, so I really quickly, we have a microphone over there. Please line up behind that microphone if you have a supporting character you think we should chat about, talk about.
Should we all say who our favorite supporting character is?
Ooh, real quick, yeah. Before we get over there, really quickly, do you have a favorite supporting character of all time, of all of everything?
I do, so I'll go first, because I brought this up when we were pitching the panel. I was like, well, mine's not from comics. I think the best supporting character of all time is Samwise Gamgee. He literally carries Frodo up the mountain on his back. He takes a lot of shit, especially in the movie, having to gain 50 pounds to fall back down a bunch of stairs. And I just think that he's an
I can't carry it, but I can carry you.
Exactly.
Whatever, however he says it.
Sounds that cockney.
Whatever weird dialect he has.
He's a takeoff really on the Watson character, but I think he's in the genre that I like more, so I have to give it up for Sam.
Patrick, how about you?
I have no idea, but I would 100% get behind that. I think I agree.
I think whenever you get to the end of the Harry Potter series and you realize it's Harry Potter who doesn't kill he who shall not be named, and you start going, oh, wait a minute. Hermione Granger is really the best supporting character out there because in every single book, in every single adventure they have, she's the one pulling Ron and Harry's butts out of the fire time and time again. And she just is like, it's what I do, and just doesn't want to accept the credit for it and just keeps going. So Hermione's my number one.
One supporting character I got to give a quick shout out to, probably one of the greatest of all time, Spock from Star Trek. That show would be nothing without Spock.
Without Leonard Nimoy.
Yep. All right, let's go right here. Tell us about a supporting character you love and why.
Well, first tell us your name because we know you. But
hi, I'm Jeremy, longtime listener, first time caller.
You're listening.
I want to limit myself to TV for supporting character, superhero TV. I'm a really big fan of Wynn on Supergirl.
Oh,
Wynn doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, no, I think that actor does a really good job, and he's my current favorite.
He's really good because he has, even though Jimmy Olsen is on that show,
he's Jimmy Olsen.
He's more Jimmy Olsen.
He's more
than
Jimmy Olsen. Yeah.
Also, he's a character who, in the first season, they totally didn't know what they were doing with him. Besides, geeky love interest, right? Because even though nerds are watching the show, nerds never get the girl. And now that he works for the DEO, and he's inarguably smarter than everyone.
I was screaming about that the entire first season of Supergirl.
Sure,
It's he needs to work at the DEO. What are they doing with this guy?
Well, and then there's the whole my dad's a supervillain backstory part.
I'm sure we'll get back to it.
I wish they would circle back to.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. So my question,
sure.
You recently talked about We Are Robin a lot, a few episodes back.
Shout out to the Duke Thomas episode.
Yeah, I loved it. Are there any other heroes that you think could benefit from the We Are Robin treatment of having their supporting cast expand and move outward.
Yes. I hate to say this with a guy currently writing Superman right here.
Gonna hit you.
I've always thought there's some way to modernize the Newsboy Legion and just sort of make them, if you don't know who they are, they're a bunch of they're basically newsies that are running around Metropolis. Jack Kirby created them a long time ago. But I've always thought that they could be like Superman's secret network and that Jimmy could be the lead of them with the Signal Watch. And I think that you could like maybe
do it with phones now.
And you could change it to like the Planeteers, like make it part of the Daily Planet.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea. That's solid. I think you could do that.
All right. It's a Superman writer approved. There you go. So yeah,
I'd read it. So
cool.
Thanks and congratulations on 200 episodes, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
He's the first.
Okay, hello, I'm Braden. And this is a character I know you guys like, Booster Gold Skeets. Because I think he's awesome.
Skeets is a great supporting character.
He is. I mean, if you're
Doesn't
trying to
get
keep
enough
Booster really level and keep him from going too far on the illegal side with some of his antics, you need Skeets there.
Skeets could also, I think, be incorporated into like a Justice League International scenario more as like an Alfred or a Jarvis type. There's room for expansion.
It would be an interesting idea to have a Justice League team that Skeets made. Like Skeets made it for some sort of time.
The robot league?
Skeets, what did you say?
Skeets Calyx, like team up. Okay.
Oh, man.
Yes. 10 out
Need
of
a
10.
vehicle for Mr. Mind to ride around.
Oh, there you go. Inside. Yeah.
And I have a question.
Sure.
Would you guys consider Jaime Reyes' Scarab as a supporting character?
Yes.
Interesting.
I agree.
I don't know if I would, because they're just so symbiotic with one another that they are almost one and the same. I like how they play off of one another, but I don't know if I would consider that a supporting character.
Kajida.
Yeah.
I disagree with you, Steven.
Well, you can, Jason.
So let's
We will
just
fight
scale it.
This is the
behind
internet.
stage afterwards.
Hello, young sir.
Hi, my name is Flash. I just have a question.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
And this is a question for all of you. If you could switch a sidekick between two heroes, which sidekick would it be and why?
Oh my God, that is an amazing
That's a really good question.
Wow.
And that's really difficult.
Flash, how old are you now?
9.
Wow.
9.
How did a 9-year-old come up with better questions
He's
than I did?
ready for Robin training.
Oh God, please, anybody. This is a tough one. It switched 2 sidekicks between heroes.
Well, the first ones I think of are, Superboy and Robin, right? Well, that would be the first one. I don't know if that would be super interesting. It might be kind of...
Do you think Superman would just like tell Damian to shut up?
I think so. I think there would be... Well, we did play off of Damian and Superman a little bit. So, Damian respects no one but Damian, basically. And so...
Typical man.
That's it. Well, But I think, and John is such, the way we've written him, he's very polite and yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and that kind of thing. So it might be funny to see Bruce have to deal with someone who's just super respectful, because he's always getting guys like, I'm not talking, and he has to scare them. Mm-hmm. So, I'd like to see him maybe be like, John, what did you do? And expect this whole like theatrical thing he had to pull out, and John just goes, oh, yes, sir, it was this way, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, and then the comic's over.
Do you think Alfred would be into it? Do you think he'd like John?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
well, Alfred.
He'd love John.
Alfred
right?
would love it.
There is an amazing. I mean, my easy answer is just to say Dick Grayson goes to Superman, and
They have a relationship.
and they have a lot of stories like that. There's a great story by Dan Jurgens, and I can't remember. I want to say it's like an annual or something like that, where it's Dick Grayson is like in his first year of being Robin, and he wants to meet Superman, and Batman's like, stay at home, do your math homework, and Dick Grayson sneaks out and goes and teams up with Superman, and he gets home. Batman figures out that Robin left, and Batman's about to open the door, and Dick's like, oh no, I haven't finished my math homework. And Superman hears this and zips in, does his math homework, and goes home. And then it cuts to like the next day, and Batman figures out that Clark did his homework because he's Batman. And he's like, next time, let the kid do his own math.
I really want Natasha Irons to go and do something with the Amazons, because I think that she's a really underused, really, really interesting character. And I think that the Amazons could like open up a little bit and include some of the other powerful women. And since, may Superwoman rest in peace, since she's not on a title right now, I think that would be an interesting way to incorporate her into the universe without having to populate one of the super books.
Nice. Thank you, Flash. Thank you for that question.
Look, another Flash.
My question is, for like, what really got me into like DC Comics and all that stuff was Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern. and in that run, he really centers around like the lore of the Green Lanterns and like this whole like cast of characters, like a lot. And my question is like, how do you feel about him like really making a lore around Green Lantern who wasn't really like kind of like centered around usually?
Well, the interesting thing, I think, and I, it's not the first time I've heard this. A lot of people think that Jeff Johns created a lot of that cast, and he actually didn't. A lot of those characters were like had been around.
A lot of them are Silver Age characters, which,
which
Jeff has stated is his favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's created a few of them in there, but like a lot of them are just characters that people forgot about because nobody wanted to write Salak or how you say his name. I mean, how did you feel? Because you were working on Green Lantern Corps when he was doing the regular title of Green Lantern.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I came on Green Lantern. Well, Green Lantern was going on with Rebirth, and then they were bringing back Green Lantern Corps, and so they brought me on with Dave Gibbons, and Jeff was writing, and Pete Tomasi also had a lot to do with a lot of how all this stuff was coming together as the editor. So I think I liked it. I personally, as it kind of escalated into Sinestro Corps War and Blackest Night, the thing that I thought was really cool was seeing how, Jeff just basically laid out all these possibilities, and then over the course of us having to wait to read the issues, everyone talked about it. Like, well, what if, Superman gets a red ring? It was just a time for us to just kind of sit back and wonder, like, what could this mean, or what could we do with, what happens if if there's a green ring and there's different colored rings, what does that mean for the DC universe? And the really cool, smart thing was he just rolled with it and just started doing all the things that we kind of wanted to see that we didn't know we wanted to see. And it was fun. It was just fun. It was pure comic book fun, but it had a lot of heart to it that he was able to incorporate. And it was also that it was a different kind of a feel in a book too, because I remember when I first came on, I was told, this is like, police in space, or soldiers in space, and so that allowed us to play with a lot of that camaraderie and honor and questions and morality and things like that, and in a real way, in a modern way. That a lot of these characters had been around for a long time, but at one point, the Green Lanterns couldn't kill before this, and then that was a huge thing that happened, I thought, and was slightly overlooked or overshadowed by everything else. But it really changed the way that they operated in the DCU.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you're always looking for other Green Lanterns, don't forget the F. Sharp Bell.
Oh yeah.
Or Mogo. I mean, those are some great.
All right, and this will have to be our final question right here.
All right, Wayne from the Wayne's Comics podcast. We're doing a crossover here.
Hey.
I was interested when you said Stan Lee didn't like sidekicks because in the very first Hulk story, he created a sidekick. And that was Rick Jones, who went on to be the sidekick for many heroes in Marvel for a long time. So I was just kind of curious, is there any way to bring Rick Jones back, make him his own hero, develop him in a different way?
I always really liked Rick Jones when he sort of shared the same body with Captain Marvel's son. Or is it Marvel? I call it Captain Marvel. I don't care. Where he shared Captain Marvel's body. It was a Peter David run where they would like clang their bands, and whenever Rick was in the mortal world, Captain Marvel would be in this weird limbo, and then when he clicked it again, like Captain Marvel would be there and Rick would be in the weird limbo. I like that. I like combining with the hero. I don't know. It's tough because Rick Jones is very weird because he is that Jimmy Olsen type character, right? And he was created during that time, but like you said, we like on Superman. We've almost outgrown. I love Jimmy Olsen.
He should be like their publicist or something like that. Like I think he could be used in an interesting way in a supporting role with the Avengers.
He should be the Oracle.
Sure.
Of the Marvel Universe is really what he should be. He should be the guy that's like running all their schedules and making sure that their bills get paid. Right?
The Fantastic Four should just hire him. They need staff.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. He runs the museum.
Yeah.
Of the Marvel Universe. Hey. There's another idea for you, Patrick.
Thank you. I'll take a note of that.
All right. Before we go, I just want to tell you that if you are interested, you like this panel, you can listen to all of our episodes at www.geekhistorylesson.com. It's on iTunes and basically everywhere you put earbuds in your ears. That's where our podcast is. Really quickly, let's go down the line, and please tell everybody where they can find you online if they're interested in more of your work.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson and on youtube.com/Jawiin, Jawiin with this guy.
And yeah, you can just find me on Instagram, Twitter, just Patrick Gleason Studio on Instagram.
He also has a story in Action Comics 1000. So,
Cool. You can find me at majorspoilers.com, on Twitter, Major Spoilers, and on YouTube, Major Spoilers Video.
thank you so much for coming. Please give a round of applause to our awesome panel. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.